Bones, and I am an artist. I'm a painter, I'm an author, and an illustrator.
So the way I'll walk you through this, it's really aligned with how my creative process has manifested over the past couple years. So by 2015, I started selling my paintings. I started selling commissions, yes. Thank you so much. Yeah, it took so much courage, but 2018 was a landmark year for me because I started really painting in earnest again for myself, not just for what people were asking of me. This painting on the right, the title of it is This Is What Depression Feels Like. I had to externalize what I was going through at that time. I think we can all relate to seasons of depression. And this painting was born. It's titled This Is What Anxiety Feels Like. And so when you look at the two, they're twin paintings. Depression is where you can't get outside of yourself and you can't reach outward to fully explain what's going on. Whereas anxiety is the opposite. Everything is constantly inundating you, and you can't stop it from coming inside your mind.
The first two works are two paintings I made inspired by mental health, my own specifically. They are titled This Is What Depression Feels Like, and This Is What Anxiety Feels Like. Creating my mental health paintings it's very meditative, it's very much a flow. It's as if you were doing yoga, but instead of doing yoga, you're painting. I will lay a painting on the floor, I will pour paint directly on top of it and use palette knives, and just whatever color I'm feeling that day becomes like the underpainting. I let it dry, I then use pouring paint on top of it, I tilt the canvas and I let the paint kind of flow over it as it needs to, and I step away, let it dry, and I come back to it and I look at it. And when you have so many different layers happening, so many different colors, the mind naturally starts to kind of create a face. And so I think, okay, like what am I feeling when I look at these colors, when I look at these lines, what am I feeling right now naturally, and then how can I create a visual representation in a face of that? And so that's how I have these like portraits manifesting of whatever it is I'm feeling. I have many more that are very happy. I just brought those two for this event.
So the book you see here and all of the prints, this and the original, this is all the original paintings I did for the book itself. So all 2019 I wrote, 2020 I learned how to illustrate everything. It's one thing to create individual paintings, it's another to create a series of paintings that create a visual narrative and are actually able to be viewed by children and understood, because many children, as you know, are pre-verbal. They aren't able to quite read yet.
It's a very different process for me to create my children's book stories, because when I'm creating those, it's like I could be doing anything, lifting weights, going on a run, driving to work, and all of a sudden it just hits me like a movie scene, like a movie sequence. And it's the words, it's the images, it's both combined. And I'm like, and I have to like write it down very quickly. But after that, it's quite a process to like flesh out more fully, okay, like what is the story in this? What is the actual visuals? Because it's one thing to have like an idea, it's another thing to pull the thread on that and say, can this manifest fully into a story?
And so a third area that I'm incredibly passionate about is coral. I love it. I love scuba diving and going underwater and just like, I could do it for hours, but you obviously can't because you run out of air. So all of these are sketches I made after my dives. I took my dive slates that had graphite line work and compositions and notes on the coral, and then I went to our like Airbnb and I just started transferring that onto my travel notebook. And then from there, and you can see this one is one such example, but I also have like pufferfish and an octopus and a gorgeous spotted eagle ray. But all of these will become what you see here. And so my process is create the artwork on the reef that I then bring above the reef with the goal of sharing it with people who maybe are never going to be able to go underwater and see how absolutely gorgeous the aquatic world is. You have to be ready at any moment for whatever happens. So like this moment, I was in staghorn coral. I found like a little sandy area and I just kind of like sat for a moment. It's maybe 15, 20 feet deep, not very deep. And so I'm just sitting there and there's the blue chromis that you see just kind of like flitting by, and then all of a sudden it's like a herd of squid, no lie, that are just, they're reef squid. They're gorgeous. They're translucent and they're like rainbow colored, and they just like in mass go by. And I was like, and I'm like quickly drying, and like I put 2 in the picture, but there was like, no lie, like 30 that were just like having a great time, like, yeah. And then like one paused and it kind of like looked at me in the soul. The past few months, it's just been like all arrived. So yeah, what a gift to share with you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Yay. Yeah.
I always want to communicate just joy, belonging, and possibility with my artwork. And so I was really like so curious if they would respond to it with that kind of, you know, engagement. And they did, which was like so validating. My heart was pounding when I realized I was going to have to like explain all of it. But I think what I hadn't realized is like when you're talking from experience, you're just sharing a story. And so it's much easier than I thought it would be to just share the work, to tell them why I made it, to tell them the order in which I made it as I was going through a lot of self-discovery myself, and how it's all manifested into this like clear and continuous practice for me. Last but not least, my final piece is Stags and Squids at 1,000 Steps. And this is the work of art where everything finally clicked for me underwater, and I figured out my flow of creating sketches underwater, bringing them above, and then manifesting them into a painting.